Hello everyone and welcome back to the Football Insider Gaming channel. Today we are going to pick out one club from each of the playable English divisions on the game. So we're going to go through the Premier League, Championship, League 1, League 2, National League and National League North and South and pick out one team from each league, go through the things that you can expect if you take over them, and I'll give you my reasons as to why I think they might be fun to manage. So let's dive into it. So the first team I'm going to pick out is West Ham United from the Premier League. And the reason for this is because they are a bit of a shambles right now. In real life, we see they are struggling in the Premier League as I record this at the end of October. They are a team as well that is aging quite a bit. And we'll go through some of their better players and also that issue. But West Ham have a chance, there to basically, over the course of a few seasons, really change the age profile of this team and change the trajectory of this football club. So in terms of expectations on the game, they basically just want you to maintain mid-table finishes in the Premier League, which I think is pretty, it's achievable. And it also means that, you can have maybe up and down years and they're not going to necessarily sack you if, say, you finish 13th in the Premier League one season and then the next season finished 8th, then back down to 12th. You are going to be able to probably stay in there, provided you aren't in major relegation trouble. And in terms of the culture of the club, they want attacking football. They want to develop players in the club's youth system. They want to sign players under the age of 22 for the future, and also do not sign players over the age of 30, which, I've just talked about there. The age profile of this team, which I'll put up on the screen now, is getting to that older stage. And one of the things we see with West Ham in real life is people talk about the lack of athleticism within this team. But let's look at some of the better players. And we'll put up Jarrod Bowen on the screen here. He obviously is going to be a big player in your save. One of the better wingers, forwards in the Premier League. I've also put on there Matthias Fernandes, who they signed this past summer. Very creative central midfielder who, should be a big part of your save going forward, especially considering his age. You've also got Cessencio Somerville on here as well, and he's a player that I really like in real life. Very, very quick, good in transition, and could be an ideal player to build around going forward. And I've also put on the age profile in this team. We've got a lot of older players, and certainly centre forward is a main area of concern for this West Ham team, but Fabianski's 40, Wilson's 33, Fulkrug is 32. We've also got in there Areola, who's 32. Rodriguez is 31. Souček's 30. James Ward-Prowse is 30. Jarrod Bowen is 28. So we're getting players there heading in the late 20s and early 30s, which you do need to address in the medium term if you want to take over at West Ham. And in terms of finances, and look, a Premier League team, their finances are always going to be pretty healthy. I've put it on the board there, but you do get £4.6 million to spend. There is a little bit of wage budget, so you could potentially bring in players. But financially at West Ham, you aren't going to run into major problems. And if I was going to, come up with a sort of 5-year plan, if I was playing the save, I think it's all about finishing the top 8 in the Premier League, trying to win a domestic trophy as well, and target success in the Conference League and Europa League, much like West Ham were doing a few years ago under David Moyes, and potentially even push towards a Champions League finish. I think these should be the realistic expectations for this West Ham team. Next up, I've picked out Blackburn Rovers, and the reason why I think this is a fun one is that Blackburn are in a bit of disarray in real life. They've obviously had the Venky's in there, which has been a troubled ownership. They must have been in for about 15 or 16 years now, but they've been in a downward trajectory, and I think it'd be good to restore Blackburn to what they were, not so long ago, get them back into the Premier League, bring back some glory to this, stable sort of foundational club in English football. Expectations aren't massively high at Blackburn. They want a top half finish, and looking at the squad, this will be a little bit of a struggle to begin with, and it's going to take a while to get this team pushing towards the playoffs. But yeah, they want a top half finish in the Championship, and it's all about signing players to then sell for a profit as well. So that's something you're going to have to bear in mind. Probably means the age profile of purchasers will be younger, and we see that in the culture. They want to develop players using the club's youth system, play attacking football, sign players under the age of 23, and don't sign players over the age of 30. So that's the expectations and the culture at Blackburn. Their best players, I've picked out a few here, but Todd Cantwell, who I'll put on the screen, fantastic creative player for the Championship. We've also got Morishita, who is a attacking midfielder, winger, can play in a lot of positions across the field, but a very, very stable player. And I've also picked out Isaac Dunn, who is a really good youth prospect, who I'll put on the screen as well. So yeah, you've got plenty to build on in this Blackburn team, but it is going to be a very difficult save because they lack depth in the squad. They also lack depth in terms of quality. Transfer budget, not massive, 300,000, a tiny bit of wage budget as well, 5,000. So not huge there. And in terms of the finances, they don't necessarily look particularly healthy going forward, which means that the selling to buy is going to be important. And in terms of what I would do and what I would want if I was doing a 5-year plan here, I think you've got to try and get the Premier League within 3 seasons and then stay there. That would be the 5-year plan. Get in there, stick in there, buy young, sell high. That has to be the plan if you are the Blackburn manager. Next in League One, I have picked out Luton Town, and I think it's pretty obvious why this one is a fun one. It's because they've fallen down 2 divisions in 2 seasons. Much like Sunderland on previous Football Manager games were always fun when they were in League One, Luton are the same now, and they've got a very good financial picture as well. They've got a new stadium on the way, and I think you've got a chance to really rebuild this team and get them probably quite quickly back into the Premier League. In terms of expectations, we've got play possession football, play attacking football, make the most of set pieces, sign players under the age of 22, and develop players using the club's youth system. So, that does dictate maybe how you have to play with Luton. They want to be on the front foot. And in terms of the expectations, they want to get automatically promoted to the Championship, which I think with this squad is very realistic. So getting an immediate return to the Championship is the goal. The best players, I've picked out a couple here. Jordan Clark in central midfield. We've also got Nordaz, who is a centre forward, 23 years old, who looks like a decent prospect, very good in the air. And I've also picked out some injuries, which will be key because these are all very good players for the team. They've got a lot of long-term injuries at Luton, so you may have to ride a bit of an early struggle to then get these players back fit and firing. Financially, Luton are looking very, very healthy, plenty in the bank. 5 million transfer budget for League One is massive. 25,000 wage budget is also massive for the level. So nothing to worry about in terms of the finances. And a 5-year plan, if I was managing Luton, well, that would just be to get back to the Premier League and stay there. And I think realistically, with the financial situation at the club and the players that they have, you could possibly get the Premier League within 3 seasons. You get out of League One in year 1, consolidate in year 2 in the Championship, and then make a promotion push in year 3. So that has to be the aim if you are the Luton boss. Next up is Bristol Rovers, and I think this is a fun save because they're in League 2, but they've constantly been in the shadow of their local rivals Bristol City, and there is potential here to become a strong EFL club. Bristol Rovers, probably have the potential to be a Championship-sized club and compete with their local neighbours. In terms of expectations for the season, you've got to gain automatic promotion to League One. So high pressure to begin with, but there's no reason why you can't do this. And also in terms of culture, they want to sign players under the age of 23 for the first team. So again, much like a lot of the teams we selected, it's all about trying to buy young to potentially sell high. The best players, we picked out Conte here, who is a defensive midfielder, looks pretty solid, and also a striker who looks very good for the level, Fabrizio Caveng, who, should score bundles of goals at this level. Finances, again, as you go lower down the football pyramid, not that healthy. There is a little bit of transfer budget and a tiny bit of wage budget, but yes, the financial picture is not great at Bristol Rovers, which means you want to be buying in young players and selling high, as the club have wanted. 5-year plan, if you were to take this job, for me, it is all about getting ahead of Bristol City in the Football League pyramid, certainly getting on parity with them. So that probably means getting into the Championship. And if you get out of League 2 as you have to in year 1, maybe spend a couple of seasons in League 1, by season 4, you should be in the Championship, in my opinion. Then you can really start battling with Bristol City. The National League, I have picked out Carlisle United, and I think this is a fun one because they, much like Luton Town, have had a double relegation, but they are financially sound. They've got a big fan base. They are clearly a very big club for the National League, and you should have a lot of fun if you were to take them over. And the National League is such a difficult league to get out of, and that is reflected in the expectations. They want to reach the playoffs. So you could, in theory, reach the playoffs and miss out on promotion and still keep your job at Carlisle United, but I think you need to be getting out of the National League in year one. In culture, there isn't anything of note there. They just want progress on and off the pitch. Their best players, we picked out Regan Linney here, who's very solid for the level. Gabriel Breeze is a very, very good young goalkeeper there. And Morgan Feeney, who was injured at the start of the game, is a rock-solid centre-back for the level. Financially, Carlisle, you don't have huge amounts to necessarily worry about straight away. They have got rich owners in real life. You've got a little bit of a wage budget to work with, and you've got a little bit of a transfer budget as well. And if I was to have a 5-year plan when I took over the Carlisle job, it would probably be to get them competing at the top end of League One by 5 seasons time. So you want to get out of the National League really in year one. League Two, you probably have a season or two in there, but generally you find it's easy to get out of League Two when you have the momentum of getting promoted from the National League. Getting into League One though, competing at the top end, trying to push into the Championship and really, turning this into a long-term save where you try and get Carlisle potentially even into the Premier League. Next up in National League North, we are looking at Darlington. They are a fallen giant who's been stuck at this level for too long. Of course, they had massive financial issues, had to start from the bottom of the football pyramid, but they've been stuck in the National League North for a long time now. So I think this is fun because you're going to restore Darlington as a football club. The expectations are to finish in mid-table in the National League North, so not massive pressure there, but I think you can really push in year one and get to the National League. Culturally, I won't put it on the screen, but it just basically says to make progress on and off the field. The best players, they've got Will Hatfield, who is a solid central midfielder, Charlie Lennon, who is on loan from Middlesbrough. It looks like a very, very good prospect on the wing. We've also got Tom Platt, who is a solid midfielder as well. And a 19-year-old who belongs to the club, Maya Smith, who is a wing-back who looks pretty good for the level. So there is plenty to work at with Darlington. They do have a pretty strong squad. Transfer budget, you've got 5k, you've got no wage bill, so not massive amounts as you would expect for a team in the 6th tier. And overall, you want to return Darlington back to the Football League. That has to be the 5-year plan. If I was playing this, I would expect to get out the National League North at most in 2 seasons. But you want to do it in year one. And then you'd be stuck at the National League maybe for a couple of years. On top of that, then you try and get into League Two. So I think by season 4 or 5, you should be back in the Football League. And the final team we're going to talk about is National League Southside Dagenham and Redbridge. Recently relegated from the National League. They have been up, I think, into League One in the not so distant past. Their expectations is to reach the playoffs in the National League South. They also, in terms of culture, just want to make progress on and off the field, so not really worth talking about there. Their best player, we have Rushwan Squat, who is a attacking midfielder, can play on the left or right wing. We also have Andy Carroll, of course, centre forward, who starts the game injured. But if you can get him fit aerially, he is going to cause problems. We also have Timothy Dieng, who is a 33-year-old central midfielder. So Dagenham have pretty good players for this level and should be competing at the top of the league. In terms of finances, as you'd expect down the pyramid with every single team, generally pretty bleak. You will have to try and make cuts where necessary and sell players. But I think if I was taking over Dagenham, the 5-year plan, of course, has to be to take Dagenham back to the Football League. And much like Darlington, you've probably got to give yourself 3 or 4 seasons to do so. You want to get out of the National League North or South within the first season. Then after that, try and get up the National League to get into League Two. And once you're in League Two, look, the world's your oyster. You can push up, try and get into League One, as Dagenham have been in the past. So let me know what you think about these teams. Are you going to think about managing one of these on Football Manager 2026? I think all of them have the potential to be a very exciting and fun save on the game. But let me know in the comments what you're going to do. Please also like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this content. And we'll catch you for many other Football Manager videos very soon.